Hello, I'm hoping there's not too much background noise on this video because as I started recording, it sounds like Ben's having a little bit of a cry upstairs as he's going to bed, and somebody's it sounds like somebody's running around with bins in our back garden, which they're not, I've checked, but they're making ninja noises. So if you hear anyone going like, hi-ya, woo, and all this stuff, it's not me. I don't know where it's coming from. So we've had a bit of a weird 48 hours really since my last video. First things first, the follow-on, I asked the question about the one thing that Ollie needs to do. It was kind of brought up at school, the thing they want him to do more than anything, the thing that they just wish he'd do because it was a big deal and all of this stuff. And I spoke to Kev about it, and we agreed in general that getting him to do anything, asking him to do the one thing he should do, which was listen to adults, was basically the equivalent of asking him to grow hair or grow or anything. It's not something you can just control in the state that Oliver's in. So I felt a bit kind of content that that was generally the consensus. Lots of people agreed. But I tried nonetheless to say to him, I think I mentioned on the video that I asked him when I saw him what was the one thing he should be doing, and he guessed a couple of times. He got it wrong the first 2 times. He said, be nice, share, and then he said, listen to adults. And I said, no, that's correct. Listen to adults. And I asked Emily, and Emily said, listen to adults. And he was like, oh, how did she get it? And then Claire said the same. So I rang the school, I messaged the school, sorry, and I said to them, we're doing this at the moment, and it seems to be working. When I say to him later on, remember what you're supposed to be doing, and he says, listen to adults, I just ask him randomly throughout the day, or I remind him when he's not listening, and he instantly starts listening, and I said, just try it, just when you see him, just say, oh, what is that thing? I think there's something you're supposed to do, isn't there? And so they did, they nipped in to see him, and they just brought it up, and he said, oh, listen to adults, and they were, you know, he was surprised they knew about it, and they were surprised he'd remembered, and it seems to have had a good impact. Yesterday was a mixed day. Today was a fantastic day, apparently. No problems today, so that's been lovely. But the reason it's been a weird 48 hours is I rang the paediatrician on Monday to say, can I have a chat before my meeting? And she wasn't about, and she said she'd ring me back, but I'd heard that before. So I kind of said I wanted to call back as soon as possible. She rang me yesterday afternoon, and she went through the test results, and I thought, so the school told me they spoke to her, and she'd said she'd ran the tests, and for ADHD thresholds weren't being met, so it didn't qualify, and they might test in future. They also sent some more questionnaires for them to look at. They also didn't mention the AQ part, so I wasn't sure what was going on. When I spoke to the paediatrician yesterday, she said that actually on our Connors 3 test, he showed a higher over the threshold in hyperactivity and inattention, and that in the school one he showed high hyperactivity and borderline inattention, which they said would qualify him to be considered having ADHD. So I was like, okay, well, we were told that you'd said he hadn't got it, so we'd kind of written it off, so that's interesting. Now, what confused me then, so I said to her, well, what does that mean from now? And she said, well, I want you to talk to this team. It was called ADHD Management. I thought this was a department on the NHS, but she referred us to these people, and I rang, and straight away this woman answered, which was a surprise in itself. She took my details, she took Ollie's details. She said, could I come along to a talk they do about living with someone with ADHD, managing it, and that sort of thing, giving advice, giving behaviour ideas, and just generally giving us someone to talk to. And she said, oh, so when was he diagnosed? And I said, well, I don't know that he has been, I'm confused. I said, like, she told me that she'd done the tests and it showed this level, and it's, you know, it's at this point and they're thinking that's what it is. But then she just passed me your details, and she said, well, we normally only get past people when they're diagnosed. And I was like, well, okay, I'm a bit lost, because I said, what the doctor basically said on the phone, going back slightly, well, she said, yeah, we think he's over the line on these, and the school had other concerns which we'd since asked them about, and they've confirmed that whilst they scored him low on, what's the word, the not paying attention one, I forgot what that is, inattention, God, my memory's bad, and they said since they thought he might score worse on that as he'd moved into the new school year, so they had a chat and they decided, yeah, that's it. And she sort of said to me, I'm going to send some more forms out for you to look at, more things for you to read. I'm going to document all this on paper, but this is what we're doing. I said to her, what about the AQ test? The school said you hadn't mentioned that to them at all. You hadn't really gone through much. And she said, well, the school didn't actually do one. The school were given a separate thing to answer, a separate thing to look at, but ultimately you can't ask them a lot of the questions they asked us. So they said that our one did score significantly high, that it's clear that there are traits that they need to take action with, and they basically said that he will now have, so she confused me because she said, I'm going to refer him to speech and language to have the autism clinic test. And I said, wait, what is having speech and language? Why does he need to go to the speech and language people for an autism test? I'm confused. And she said it has to be done by 2 different departments simultaneously, so the doctor needs to do it and the speech and language need to do it, so she's scheduling that in. She suggested it would only take around 2 months to sort out, which I found really baffling that she's saying that. I'm fully expecting the letter to come and now say like 2 years, and maybe she misspoke, but she said that they'd book an appointment for an autism clinic with them, they'd talk further. She was putting it all in writing for me, but in the meantime, she was going to send me a leaflet about ADHD, give me the charity information, and generally move on from there. So I was just then really confused because they're asking me questions. When I rang the charity, they're asking me questions, and they were saying, right, we just want to figure out how severe it kind of is. But their questions were on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. How does he behave at home? And I was like, 6-ish, 5, 6, he's pretty good, he's pretty normal. It's not perfect, but then I said, like, I don't think Emily would be a 1 or a 2, she'd probably be a 3, but she's pretty good. I said that at school, I'd probably say more of a 7 or 8. I asked school what they thought, because Claire disagreed, but school said, yeah, 7 or 8, depending on the day. They asked how he slept and said, like, does he go to bed okay? And I said, well, yeah, pretty much. Like, it's longer than it is for Emily, but he's still pretty good. As if I'd planned it, he then opened the door and interrupted my video. So I had to give him a bit of a talking to about going back to bed and doing as he's told. Although I think he's been waiting for Claire, bless him, and she's putting Ben to bed still, as I said. I kind of wanted to get cracking on recording once he was settled, bless him. But no, it's been really interesting because I think I imagined being told. So I spoke to the school today, and I said to them, we've had this call. They've said this is what the scores were. They think he's got ADHD and that they're going to work with it from there. They're also booking in the autism clinic for, they said 2 months, and they were like, okay, that's good. And I said, so they're basically saying both have scored, enough to do something. And the school were like, oh, excellent, okay. So then they were telling me all the things they're doing. They had a really cute moment, actually, where she said to me, oh, how does Ollie get on with your dog? And I said, well, he's pretty indifferent. Like, he likes her, he gives her the odd hug, but doesn't really care that we've got one. He doesn't really acknowledge her that much. And she was like, ah, damn. And I said, okay, why is that? Thinking, like, what does she have in mind? Or what's he said now, sort of thing. But she said that apparently, I don't know if a colleague had told her of a child that they worked with once that had, instead of getting their daily rewards as like a treat or a conker or whatever random thing they've been trying with Ollie, they'd been giving this child dog treats for their dog to bring home because they love their dog so much. And I thought that was an amazing idea, but I said it wouldn't really work with ours. Ollie wouldn't really care enough to give the dog treats. And I pointed out that our dog's quite old and I don't really want to attach them too much, knowing that she's probably not going to be around in a year or two. I know that sounds a little bit off, but at the moment, I think it probably sounds awful, but at the moment, if she was to pass, it'd be sad. But I think if we really attached them, it'd be devastated, and it'd be more. I mean, the other, well, Emily will be quite mortified because she's been here her entire life, but Ollie doesn't really interact with her that much. So I was like, I don't really want to start sort of planting that seed when it's not going to kind of grow for very long, which does sound awful because you've got years yet, Molly. You're in earshot. You're not going anywhere. But yeah, I was like, we can't do that really. So. So it was interesting because I know they are taking it seriously. I know they're working for it. I know they're planning for it. And they did say they do try lots of different things. They've been trying the countdown. But they were instantly a bit more like, okay, this is good. We're getting somewhere. We're getting some answers. They said that might affect the behaviour panel conversation. That might help the behaviour panel conversation. They generally felt better about getting support. And it felt like it all just came out of nowhere. But then when I got off the phone and I thought, I've spoken to the school. I've spoken to the doctors. I've spoken to this charity help thing. I was like, that's kind of it with that. Like, now we're just waiting for a letter to go yes, and then we're just waiting for another letter later on to go yes. And people have said to me that when they got their diagnosis is sorted for their children for things, that it all felt a little bit flat. And I'm not 100% sure this is it. I don't know whether he's got to go and do another clinic. They didn't mention an ADHD clinic. They didn't mention any kind of thing. They just said they've met him, they've done their talking, they've done their questions, they've talked to everyone. This all feels a bit too straightforward and simple. So, I mean, I put in the title of the video, you know, have we had a diagnosis? And I mean it. I don't know. I don't know what, like, once the piece of paper's there, we'll know for sure, I guess. But I'm like, I don't know what I'm expecting. Was I expecting music to play? Was I expecting a bit of fanfare and a bit of, so your kid's got ADHD, which is probably what the leaflet will say when it arrives in the post. But I don't know what to expect at all now. And I don't really know what that means, because I'll be honest, I did some research on it, and a lot of the stuff doesn't fit. A lot of the stuff doesn't fit. I mean, like, the impression you get reading online about it is that when he come down just now and said he wanted to talk or whatever, that he would just be completely, you know, I can't think of the right word, just completely obsessive about the thing. He wouldn't listen, he wouldn't be able to cope with. That's how it is implied, that he'll just do his own thing and that'll be that. Or, and maybe it's just really badly explained and understood, but I'm going to have to go and do a bit of learning now, because I mean, it's the same as anything, isn't it? We're just learning what Ollie's like, what works for Ollie, what Ollie does. That's all Ollie stuff. But no, I'm glad we got some, because they did say once they got that underlined, it would get help sorted, make life easier. Once they got that underlined, it would speed up the autistic part as well. That clinic and everything, which again, I'm not really certain what they're saying on that. But it feels like out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting them to say, we need to do it, we need to book you in for 6 months' time, we need to book you in for something else, we need to do something else. But they literally just kind of went, yep, this, and then, yep, we acknowledge that there's definitely clear signs of that, so we'll do. So he said they sort of basically went, ADHD, obviously signs of autism, let's do an autism clinic, we'll sort that out. See you soon. There's a letter coming in the post. Bish, bash, bosh. Unbelievable. I feel like this isn't the end of the journey. I know it's not the end of the journey at all. This is a weird sort of, we've stopped at a service station midway through the journey and somebody's gone, yeah. Here's some pictures of it. Here's some acknowledgement that you're going there, whatever. And it's just a bit bizarre. I feel a bit odd. I've been feeling odd about it all day, yesterday and today, because I didn't do a video straight away because I wanted to see what came out from talking to school. I thought they might say, oh, no, you silly man, you're nowhere near. But they were like, okay, cool, we've got acknowledgement that this is the problem. This is part, well, not the problem, that's the wrong word. I hate using words like problem and issue, because it sounds like a negative. This is the situation. This is you know, this is Ollie. You know, this is what Ollie is living with, sort of thing. So, no, it's bizarre, it's new, and it's good. It's good that we've got somewhere so far. So I hope that helps someone. I hope the dog idea helps someone for starts, but I hope that hearing that, you know, we've basically got to the point where the test was done, we chased it up. I don't know when they would have told us if I hadn't have rang. That seems a bit odd, but we're getting somewhere. So fingers crossed we'll have answers very quickly, and or at least a letter very quickly, and I can tell you lot what's going on, and it'll be great from there. So I'm going to wrap up. Thanks so much for watching, and subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. I've got loads of people flashing up on my phone telling me that there's a Pokemon raid in town that I need to go to in 10 minutes, so I've got to get this edited and put on the internet. So I don't think I'm going to get it done in time. I'll have to do it a bit later tonight, sorry. But no, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the weekend. Cheers.